Chancellor Owusu-Ekuful is our guest, looking all spiffy. Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard.
How are you doing?
I am doing great, by His grace.
You appear and disappear. So it's like
do,
you're in your appearance season. Your ministry comes in the news and then goes quiet and comes back again.
We are working.
You are working. I think June has been a big week for a month for your ministry. 5G was a major thing for you.
May, June, yeah.
Major thing. But you've been at the ministry since 2017.
Yep.
Didn't you want a new job? Aren't you tired of this ministry?
It's one of the most exciting places to work because
Still?
there's something new every day.
Is it?
Something new every day.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
For a lawyer, we thought you want something else, to try something else to do.
Well, I'm game.
You're game. Anyway,
whenever
this is the
appointing,
11th hour and you are not touched. So your minister was not touched.
Whenever they are, that must be a sign that they're happy with the appointing authority is happy with my performance at the ministry. We've done quite a bit of work.
What was the president's remit to you? What did he tell you, at least on the second round? What did he ask you? What did he want you to do in the ministry?
To deepen our connectivity, work to extend connectivity to as many unserved, underserved places, communities as possible, to focus on consolidating our digitalization drive. And that's why he added digitalization to the portfolio. That it appeared we were implementing initiatives and without any formal structure to guide and regulate the process. And so I should take up that mantle, and I think it's gone pretty well.
It's going well?
Yeah.
How do you assess yourself? What metric do you use?
I have, I lived in Japan for a bit.
Really?
And one of the things that most companies do is to have a checklist and tick it off. It may seem simple, but at least if you give yourself a to-do list and you tick it off, then you know that you're making progress. So far, I think I am almost done with my checklist in the ministry. There are just a few things that are still outstanding. There is a lot of work to be done there, but you can't do everything in 8 years. It's not possible. So you give yourself targets and work towards achieving those targets.
When you look at the mobile telecommunications sector, in terms of competition, penetration, accessibility, affordability, are you satisfied that Ghanaians are getting good quality, basically the 3 A's: access, affordability, availability?
That's a challenge everywhere, not just in Ghana. And it is a subject we constantly discuss in international fora and look at ways in which we can improve access, make it more affordable, and what's the other A? Accessible
and then
available. Yes. So it's something that we're constantly working on. And one of the key issues that have been flagged are the affordability of devices, the cost of data, and the cost of even availability of the service. And so the conversation is coalescing around digital public infrastructure, where the government relaxes its spectrum demands, spectrum payment demands, and gives companies flexible payment regimes for spectrum, and works with the industry in terms of a partnership. So what can government do to facilitate? It's a largely private sector-led industry, but government regulations can accelerate or impede their progress. So that's one of the key asks from industry, that government partners them. And that's why we have started since 2020 now. Yeah, I keep saying 2020 with the Rural Telephony Project, which is a shared infrastructure. And it's going quite well. And so government has paid for the rollout, or is paying. I can't say we've paid, we still owe. We're paying for the rollout of the infrastructure. And the network operators are providing service on that. Government is also paying for the operational cost of it as well, because there are areas in this country where they will ordinarily not go. In their estimation, it's not commercially viable. But every part of this country needs to be connected, as much of the country needs to be connected as possible to high-speed broadband, and there is a critical imperative for that. It helps grow the economy. It helps energize the neighborhoods. Now, when we started on this, the capacity on the rural telephony network was provisioned low because the assumption was that there wouldn't be much usage. But the learnings and the experience from it is once the site goes live, capacity is used up very quickly. It means even though they'll be topping up in small bits as compared to the commercially viable centers, they still use it. And so everywhere the network goes, it is used. And so we've had to reprovision capacity on it to ensure that they have adequate service. So that's one of the means in which we're expanding.
I want you to expand on that, but there was a time in which the sector was seen as very competitive. I remember when Glo was about to come in, everyone was talking about Glo's entry and what it would do. Vodafone at the time was also doing pretty well with the landlines and the rest of it. There was also Airtel, there was also Tigo, there was even Kasapa. These days, MTN is almost like the giant. Right?
It is a monopoly.
Yeah. And somehow Glo, we don't seem to hear of them much more. Airtel and Tigo have merged into ATN, and Vodafone is now Telecel. They seem to be struggling. Would you say it was government policy that led to this market structure? Because you made allusions, for example, to the spectrum that was sold, or was it just pure competitive dynamics? What do you think accounts for the way the market has panned out?
It's a combination of factors. Government policy has contributed to it. The investment decisions of the companies have also contributed to it. And so, but it's a fluid industry. Vodafone now, but Ghana Telecom was the dominant operator for many years. And when MTN came in as Spacephone
and Ariba.
Yes, they were the number 3 on the market because Tigo then was the dominant player in the mobile services market. So it's a fluid industry, and it largely depends on the investment decisions that you make. It's a capital intensive industry. But one key thing that government did, which has backfired on us and helped create this virtual monopoly. You don't blame MTN for taking advantage of circumstances to grow their business. And I keep saying they shouldn't be punished for taking risks when they did. But government sold spectrum to local operators to do broadband data services on the understanding that they would be giving exclusivity in that space, while the mobile network operators did voice and then procure data services from them if they wanted to give those data services to their subscribers. After having done that, quite a few of them came up onto the market, the Selflines, Telesols, Broadband Home, Busy Internet, all of them came onto the market and invested. And it is, like I said, it's expensive to roll out the infrastructure on which to deliver those services. After promising them exclusivity, then we went ahead to auction the 4G spectrum to these same big players who MTN then acquired the spectrum. And of course, it has so much more a stronger financial muscle than these local entities do. And so they cornered the market. Now, at the time of the spectrum, it was offered to all network operators of the auction. It was offered to all network operators in the country. Only MTN
was able to purchase
at
the price, or
at the price it was pegged that only MTN purchased it at the time. The others figured they could continue to offer 2G, 3G services. But that has made it possible for them to corner the high-speed data market and blown the rest of them out of the water. As a consequence of that, even when the others decided that they would take up 4G, it was as if the horse had bolted. because those who would give you the capital to acquire the spectrum and to roll out the network looked at the nature of the Ghanaian market and said, you have a virtual monopoly. I mean, how am I going to get my money back if I give it to you? You will struggle. So even raising capital for the others has become a challenge. So it's incumbent. We can't allow, it's not good for our country in so many ways in terms of competition. We had some challenge with the voice services of MTN this past week, but most people don't have any alternative, so you're stuck with it. It's not good for the country in terms of the way in which all economies are evolving and the need for data to conduct all businesses that we require, internet access to conduct all businesses that are operating. I mean, anywhere no matter which sector you're in, you need some amount of internet access to be able to do your work. So all those were factors that led to the decision that we've taken not to auction 5G, but to provide a shared infrastructure for all the network operators and even new entrants to utilize.
So the position is that there's an admittance that the route you used in the 4G contributed to the market structure. So you're using the new route in the 5G to try and correct that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Which means that your objective beyond bringing value to the customer is also to correct what you consider market distortion.
That will also bring value to the customer. So it's a multi-pronged approach. Now it's also in response to the industry call for digital public infrastructure. It's also in response to the industry call for changing spectrum policy and using that as a tool to accelerate the growth of the sector, instead of auctioning it and collecting your money up front and not caring whether they can roll out speedily or not. So this initiative is an answer to the challenges that we face as a country, the call of the industry in international fora, which includes our network operators as well, at the GSMA level and all of that. That's a constant conversation. At the ITU level, it's a constant conversation that we're having. There's another one that we're looking at. I don't know if I should throw that in here now.
Why not? You're already on air. You've already given us the hint. Just go ahead.
Social media networks, all these tech companies are utilizing the networks of the mobile network operators to deliver their services to subscribers without contributing to the development of that network. So that's a conversation that has also been ongoing for the entire 8 years that I've been in this sector. How do we get these over-the-top operators, these OTT operators, which ride on this infrastructure, to also contribute to the expansion of that network?
But I thought Google had built some network. They are one of the biggest.
So in response to that, they built or formed consortia to build subsea cable networks to deliver their content to the continent. And then they go into arrangements with local operators to see how they can also expand that network, their services to the rest of their subscribers in country. But that's not enough. After bringing your content to our shores, how do you deliver it? In which networks are you going to deliver it? And how do you contribute towards the growth of that network? Google is part of a consortium that has set up C-Squared, and that's a wholesale fiber network. So it's not just contributing, they're also, it's intended to be a revenue earning mechanism. But they need to do more. And so that's the conversation that we're currently,
so this will
ongoing.
Include Facebook and also Twitter and all these guys.
All those tech companies, big tech companies, all of them.
But just back to the point around the market structure, whilst you've admitted that MTN invested, some would say that why didn't Vodafone, for example, spend a bit more because they had a historical advantage with the fiber to home, I think they call it, and they were doing pretty well. So, and again, some even say that the government did not sort of put its money where its mouth is when it comes to the Vodafone investment. So some of the challenges that Vodafone now tell itself faced can be blamed on lack of investment, some of which can be attributed to the table of government.
But the management of the company was in the hands of Vodafone at the time, not government. Government was on their board. But they were managing the company. And I'm saying that their investment decisions also contributed to the situation in which they find themselves now. I'm not blaming them. At the time, it may have made sense to them to want to focus on the 3G that they were delivering. But they chose not to participate in the auction at the time that it was made available to all of them.
Maybe they didn't have enough money.
Maybe they didn't have enough
Partly because
money.
government didn't, because we're told government didn't put forth your 30%. A lot of times when there's need for money, the government doesn't contribute.
It could have been. I
But
mean,
I'm
if
sure you know
there's an equity, there's a cash call on equity or equity contribution required.
Yeah.
But there's so many mechanisms that the government at the time, and I've read some of the initiatives that they put in place to support the company. But if you take the decision that you're going to do it, you look for the investment to do it, whether your equity partners do so or not. What about you, the 70% equity owner, shareholder? You know, so they took the decision not to join the auction. Same with Airtel and Tigo at the time, but that was the turning point in the development of the sector, and that has directly led us to where we are. But I'm not one for lamenting. This is where we find ourselves. That's the situation we find ourselves in. What can we do to reset the industry?
So fair enough. So this new 5G approach is shared. There are, I think, 5 companies: Nokia, Tech Mahindra. I think there's Radisys.
There will be more.
Knet. Oh, there's more.
There will be more once the discussions are completed.
All right. Will MTN be involved at any point?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because the impression was created initially that because this was to correct the market distortion, they would not be part of it.
No. I don't know who created that impression. Somebody threw it out there, and nobody spoke to me or any of those involved in putting this consortium together before throwing this false alarm out there. It's not true.
So you can sit on record that they will be.
Absolutely. I said discussions are ongoing.
So that will mean they'll own part of the next gen in FRCO?
All network operators in the country are being offered the opportunity to take up equity in this next gen in FRCO. All of them, including MTN.
I see. So that means that just a matter of time. But have they expressed interest? Have they said to you they'll do it?
They've definitely expressed interest.
Because some feel like if they are not part, it will be tough as well because they've invested a lot in 4G. And since obviously 5G is the next level, some of the companies involved like AT and Vodafone may not have had the level of investment of MTN. So for all of us as an industry, it's good to have MTN to be part of that. But
that has always been the plan. Now, this next gen in FRCO is going to do nationwide 4G and 5G as well. It's not just 5G. It's going to do nationwide 4G as well to provide a platform for any entity which also wants to utilize that infrastructure to deliver their services. But
that would be difficult for MTN to agree, don't you think? Because if I'm already doing 4G, there's a company that's coming, consortium, to do both 4G and 5G. They are competing with me on one hand, and yes, we're going to work together on the 5G.
They are all competing against each other.
So you don't see a problem there?
I don't see a problem in there. Now, if their network is congested and they need additional capacity, they can also fall on this to provide them with that capacity to extend their services to other parts of the country. That's what is meant by digital public infrastructure. So I don't see why that should be a deal breaker for them. It's added value to them.
Was lack of interest in terms of people not having enough money one of the reasons why we agreed to make them divide the payment? Because I'm told that they pay 6.5 million, I think today, 24 June, so maybe by tomorrow, and then it sort of spreads either specific percentages of their profits or specific amounts over a 10-year period, as against the upfront payment for the 4G that was done in the previous round?
I told you that one of the asks of the industry in most of the conversations that we've been having at both national and international fora is for government to use spectrum policy to grow the sector. All of them would much rather invest in rolling out their networks and spreading the payment for the spectrum over time than in paying upfront for it, because that takes money away from the growth of the network. Now, for government, for the companies as well, we have a shared interest in expanding connectivity. So how do we work together to make that happen as quickly as possible? Now, even for existing network operators, the NCA has flexible spectrum payment terms for them. Even now, as we speak. So it's not just NextGen, which is being given flexible payment terms. Both it's only MTN that can afford to pay upfront for it. So for those who've asked for payment terms, they have been giving those payment terms. And it's that same thing that was extended to NextGen, so that instead of paying upfront for the spectrum, you roll out the network within the shortest possible time. And they've indicated that within the next 3 years, they'll be able, in fact, by September, the first 5G sites will go live. And within the next 3 years, they'll cover 80% of the country with high-speed broadband. I mean, that will make Ghana one of the most connected countries on the continent, if not the world. And that would open up a lot of opportunities for everybody around the country. So it's a deliberate policy in response to industry requests to do that. I was having a conversation on the sidelines of one of our meetings with the UAE regulator. And that's what the discussion was about, because that's where the whole world is going. Now, there's a saying in Akan that, yes, you collect your money up front. And then what? You don't care about the network rollout? I do. And I told you one of my charges that the president gave me was to ensure that we connected this country, expanded connectivity to as many parts of the country that don't have it as possible. And so this is one of the ways in which we think we can extend high-speed broadband connectivity to 80% of the population.
Should we manage expectations in the sense that the 4G rollout, at least when I checked the last NCA data, we are told it's around 30%. So, again, if 5G is the next level to 4G, some people feel like we don't even have enough 5G compliant devices. So the 80% may be ambitious, and that you want to ensure that even the 4G is available in as many places as possible before you now start expecting 5G. What are your thoughts around that? The fact that even 4G, we are not even 50%, that I'm sure of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now it is availability and usage are two different things. Usage around the country is about 15%. So to make it available to people to use is around 15%, even though the data may show that it is there. How many people are using? I told you that one of the factors against, we have a low usage, as low as 30% in many parts of the country, even where the service is available. Just about 30% of the people are using it. So one of the issues is affordability of devices.
Devices, they can't pay. They don't have the devices that can even get them to use it.
Yes. Affordability of devices. So as part of this arrangement that we're having with Radisys as well, they are going to provide us with affordable smartphones. And I have seen $20 smartphones. I've even seen $10 smartphones. But that's the production price. To get it to market, it will go a bit higher. But even if we can get it for $50, and it does everything that your iPhone does, that's a plus. Preloaded with all manner of applications that people in our part of the country will find useful. That's a plus. we are insistent that this shared network also extend 4G connectivity, because most people would use 4G rather than the 5G. 5G would be for specific use cases or individuals who actually need it. Specific industries located all around the country would be interested in high-speed connectivity to do their work. It will enable us to have smart cities, smart transport grids, smart traffic lighting systems, which can do multiple things, including providing Wi-Fi as well. So we have a lot in mind, yes. And so we need that to enable that happen. But more people will use 4G as individuals than 5G, and that's fine. So for those sectors that need the 5G, why not? We need to make it available. We can't wait and be left even further behind. Even as we speak, 5.5G, 6G is being developed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you are confident that the partners will be able to build the infrastructure, will raise the resources to build the infrastructure that is required for the network to operate?
They're doing so as we speak. Now, we have infrastructure in country. So it's not going to be a totally greenfield operation, building up from the ground. So they're going to utilize that. Some of the partners are contributing infrastructure, some are contributing cash for this to work. So we're confident that they'll be able to meet their network rollout timelines.
Government is holding 7.5% shares in next gen in FRCO. Some people think that's too small for something as strategic as 5G. Is there any reason why we are owning only 7.5% of this?
Yeah. I think our attitude towards government properties isn't the best. You were talking about maintenance when I was coming in. I was listening to you. And so let this be a pure private sector operation. And let government just have a carried interest in it, small percentage, which will also ensure that we get dividend payments over time. If they're leasing government infrastructure or public infrastructure to utilize for the network, they will pay for the use of those assets. So there are multiple revenue streams that come to government from this network. And 7.5 may look small, but government isn't in the business of running telecoms companies. Let's leave it to those who are best suited to do that. And we think that this share is adequate, particularly since we are not paying for it.
By the way, do we still have any shares in 80? Who does 80 belong to? Is it a Ghana company?
80 is 100%.
100% owned by government.
Yes, but 100% of 0 as against 10% of 100 are two different things.
So since 80 and Telesol will be part of the consortium, government indirectly also would control parts of the 5G infrastructure beyond the 7.5? Is that how we have to look at it?
That's the thinking of it. But government is actively looking for partners to take up the shares in 80.
So you're using this 5G to also bait people to say, beyond what they have, there's a 5G.
Don't bait people.
Maybe let me use the right
strategic decisions.
So you're hoping that there will be some investor interested in injecting money into 80 on the basis of this new arrangement because of the prospects of 5G?
We have a fair amount of interest in 80.
So we own.
Some have already been indicated. Some are now expressing interest in it.
Okay.
So
I'm just trying to understand the landscape. So government owns 30% of Vodafone, right? 30, and then we own 100% of 80.
Yeah.
Good. But do we own any shares in MTN?
No.
Did we miss a trick there? Because I remember they went on the stock exchange. This is a few years ago. Seeing how big they become and how important they are, the government missed a trick by not purchasing some shares in that company.
I wasn't the minister at the time.
Where? I thought you were. When did MTN? I thought you were.
It's part of their license, 4G license obligations to offload, I think it was 25% of their shares to local local participation. So it's part of their license.
But these are more local private investors who went.
Yes. So they went to market, and ordinary citizens acquired shares in it. Pension funds acquired shares in it.
But why didn't government buy shares in MTN? It would have given you a stronger. I mean, this is the sector is a very.
Why should government be owning shares in?
So that when they make dividend and they are paying back in dollars, we will not lose money and our currency will not depreciate. Because when all these big companies who are all foreign owned pay dividend in March, the currency just goes down because all the money goes back to shareholders.
Siphoned out.
Yes. So it's strategically, even from a currency management perspective, it may make sense to invest in profitable large foreign companies.
Well, we want government to create the enabling environment for them to continue to be profitable. And that generates income and develops our economy generally. And I think the tax income and all of that, but I'm not an economist. So from my layman's mind, I think that government should get out of running businesses or owning shares in businesses.
There has been a comparison to India, where we're told that after lots of money spent in the 5G, the telcos are not getting the return. And that may affect, and by the way, I'm told one of the two leading foreign companies is an Indian company, which has also rolled out 5G, that with a huge market like India, the monetization of 5G has been a challenge.
But I told you that 5G for now is for specific use cases. And one of the interesting bits of this transaction is that Nokia, Tech Mahindra will be setting up, how do I put it? Maybe laboratories or something to develop 5G use cases for Africa. It's useful in agriculture, in the transport sector, in the mining sector, in the energy sector, in management of our ports. So there are specific industries that will be interested in high-speed connectivity, 5G. But whether it will be mass market it's a new technology, relatively. And I think it's just over 100 countries currently have it. And so it's still developing. And it will be more relevant as time goes on, as more and more of these sectors are energized and use it more. And that's why we're insisting that 4G should be rolled out. For the mass market, currently, 4G would be more utilized than 5G. But there is a huge potential for 5G, as I said, in developing smart networks, smart grids, smart transport systems, smart cities, helping us manage our environment better. Even our legal and illegal mining sector can benefit from an infusion of technology in there as well. So there are users for it, but it won't be as mass market as 4G.
We're told one of the reasons why devices are expensive is taxes. Is there a tax solution, or are you thinking of using a tax incentive to lower the price of devices, which will then make the usage better, since you've admitted that even though the network may be there, people don't have the devices and therefore the usage is low? Is that something you're considering?
Absolutely. I've had conversations with the finance minister. I think currently there's a 20% tax on devices, which I think is too high. And so when the process, I indicated at the time when we're doing the SIM registration that we'll set up an equipment identity, a central equipment identity register as well, which will collate the triplets, the phone number, the IMEI, and the IMSI. I forget what IMSI is. Every device has unique numbers. So once you connect to your device, your network knows that this device is live. And that's why they tell you, send you messages to activate certain products on the or apps on your device to connect to their network. Once that's done, we would know the device, and so there's quite a fair bit of smuggling in of devices without paying the requisite taxes because it's high, and there's an incentive to bring it in without paying the taxes. So my conversation with GRA, the former commissioner, and the finance ministry is that with this equipment identity register, you would have visibility over all devices that are customed and uncustomed. Currently, they are collecting just about 30-40% of the tax that they should on devices because it's high, so people are smuggling it in. So once this network is up and running, now the main purpose is not for tax purposes, but that's the another added advantage for this CEIR. We can lower the taxes to like 10 or 5%, which will enable more people be compliant than they are. So at the end of the day, they won't even lose out. We've pegged it way too high. So it's an incentive for people to smuggle it in, depriving the nation of much needed revenue. Let's reduce it. Economies of scale. It just makes sense. So that you would have more visibility over devices that have actually paid the taxes or not paid. You can send notification to them that you have 90 days within which to pay. If you don't pay, your device can and will be blocked. So, and once that is up, this service is also running as well. It reduces the incentive for people to steal other people's phones. I've been going around my constituency as usual, and one of the largest security concerns is phone snatching. So if we set up the system, and we're going to do it, nobody has to queue to register any device. We can get that information from the telcos who have it already. If your device is lost or stolen, you can report it and it will be blocked, and it cannot be used on any network in this country. So for petty criminals who steal people's devices for resale, it becomes useless because it will be blocked. And the unblocking and unlocking industry too, unfortunately, will be affected. But baby, so they have to bear with us.
It's 6 minutes to 9. My guest is Honorable Ursula Owusu-Ekuful. She's Minister for Communication and Digitalisation. We're talking generally about the ministry, her sector, and also the 5G rollout. We can take your questions now, 054-998-6996. I have just two final questions on 5G. Please bring her water. two comments on 5G. The 10 years, is that not too long? And the premise of that is, since telecommunications is such a fast-changing sector, things happen so fast. There are new inventions almost every year. To give off our 5G and a sizable chunk of 4G to a consortium for a decade. I mean, a decade ago, we didn't even know 5G was possible. So many things can change within a year or two. What was the thinking around giving it a 10-year contract? Was it a financial thing? Was it what they wanted? Because 10 years seems a pretty long time, 2034.
It will come very quickly. I've been on this job for 8 years already. Who would have thought in 2017 that 2024 would come so quickly? So yes, it's a fast evolving industry. However, the underlying infrastructure, we still have 2G phones in this country. It works concurrently. In some parts of the world, they phased off 2G. But in Ghana, most of our users use 2G, 3G. So we're working towards reducing the reliance on 2G and moving more towards 3G, 4G. So yes, 10 years may seem a long time, but it's reasonable in the industry.
Finally, have you addressed the question of the apparent quick turnaround time between when the company was incorporated and when they were giving the I won't call it it wasn't an auction, so obviously when they were given the right to manage the infrastructure. I mean, the timeline seemed pretty short.
We've been working on this for a pretty long time. And we could only have set up this company once the approval was given for this, excuse me.
Yes.
This infrastructure company to be set up. And it is at the moment, those who are registered with the Registrar Generals as shareholders are holding it pending the completion of shareholding agreements with all these partners. So the idea was, it was on 27th May that the partnership agreement with, the 5 partners was signed in Mumbai. And we came and announced it. Before going to conclude those discussions, you had to go with something to indicate that this is not just political talk, but we are serious about going down this path. It will be the first 5G shared network in Africa. So understandably, people would think that, maybe we're just sounding off and we have no intention of actually completing this transaction. So as at 27th May, we needed to demonstrate that the company had actually been set up and we are ready for business. They've been granted the spectrum. And so we really do have something that we're bringing to the table, which should make you interested in joining us, even though conversations had been ongoing with them for over a year.
And are we clear on what each of these 5 or 6 partners is bringing? Nokia Finland, Tech Mahindra, Radisys, KNet. So, for example, KNet, what are KNet doing? Because KNet, I know in our sector, as broadcasters, they provide some shared infrastructure for digital terrestrial television. Why are they part of this? Is there any reason? I mean, we know AT and Telecel. Again, who is Ascend Digital? What are they bringing? Because, of course, we know Tech Mahindra and Radisys India. So, are the roles clear? Are you able to tell us what each of these specific consortium partners is contributing to the 5G rollout?
Okay. I spoke about the rural telephony network.
Yes.
Ascend Digital is the local subcontractor to the Chinese Huawei and CNTIC, who are building that infrastructure.
Okay.
And so they actually, their responsibility is to build the towers, operate and manage the network. So they have experience in building and operating shared networks for now. They are the only ones who are doing that in this country.
Okay.
They work with the Smart Africa Alliance too on other projects on the continent. So you may not have heard of them, but they've been very active in the sector for a while. So I just laugh when I hear some of these comments being made. When the Chinese suspended their operations because of our debt exchange negotiations, it's being funded by a China Exim facility. So China Exim withdrew the funds. And so the Chinese said, okay, money in a hand, back in the ground. I'm not going to continue working if I'm not being paid. Ascend is the one which has kept, the company which has kept this network up and running, even though they haven't been paid because they're a Ghanaian company. So if you're in the rural area and you're getting connectivity from this rural telephony network, it's because of Ascend Digital that has kept it running. We've made alternative arrangements for funding to enable this project to be completed by the end of this year. KNet, in addition to building and operating the only shared broadcasting infrastructure we have in this country, has also been providing connectivity, network connectivity in this country for a long time through satellite services. So they have experience in that as well. And that's why they were choosing to work with us on this. Nokia are providing an open radio access network. Radisys is giving us the entire core network as well. And Tech Mahindra is also providing services to us as well. So each of the consortium members is bringing something,
AT and Telecel?
Something to the table. I'm coming. Now, AT partnered with Ascend to build the government network, which is providing high-speed connectivity to 951 state institutions across the country. So that infrastructure exist currently, providing 100 gigabits per second of connectivity to post offices, all district assemblies, selected hospitals, police stations, and some other government institutions around the country. District assemblies largely because they were complaining about lack of connectivity impeding their use of GIFMIS. Yeah. Now they don't have any excuse. That infrastructure is there. They built 3,500 kilometers of fiber, backhaul and last mile fiber. They have high-speed radio network and microwave network as well. Some they've leased from other companies. So that network is there. AT is bringing that into, they own 50% of that network. They're bringing that to the consortium. Telecel also has extensive fiber that the end towers that the consortium can utilize. So everybody, MTN can decide whether to throw in its infrastructure or to contribute cash.
We are told they had prepared almost 1,300 cell sites when they announced a couple of years ago that they were ready for 5G. So I don't know whether that's in the conversation or what they will bring to the consortium now.
They will decide what to bring to the consortium.
But who's raising the money? Or they are raising the money together?
They are private I said these are the share equity partners that we have for now. There will be others. There are private investors that are bringing in the capital that we need to do the work.
So have they paid the first 6.2 million?
Yes, they have.
I'm told the deadline was tomorrow.
They paid it already.
They paid it already. All right. A few quick questions around consumer responses. So, for example, Selfline exited the market in a way that was unannounced, and also some people had purchased bundles or whatever, and then Selfline just disappeared, and some are asking for compensation. Are you aware of this?
Compensation from whom?
The regulator, I guess, because if the
regulator doesn't compensate, it is the company that.
So is the company, does it still exist?
It doesn't. It is really, really struggling.
So how do we protect the consumer who has paid for a service and the company disappears?
Unfortunately, when companies are liquidated, there's a pecking order in terms of who can get what at which time. Almost invariably, the consumer ends up with nothing. It's unfortunate, but once you take out those who have a first charge over their assets, you take out tax obligations, regulatory fees, and all of that, there isn't much left to go around. So it's most unfortunate. But as I told you, decisions taken in 2015 led directly to the collapse of these companies, these local broadband wireless access operators who didn't stand a chance once the space was opened up to the mobile network operators. So it's unfortunate. It's as if we gave with one hand and took with the other. But it's water under the bridge. I've had extensive conversations with them to see how we can support them. And it's not just Selfline which has exited the market, but Blue, Broadband Home, is it Gold Key or Gold Crest or something was also in there.
There's an interesting coincidence that a lot of the companies that have struggled have had government participation. Vodafone, Airtel, Selfline, Blue, even Busy.
Did they have government participation?
Or shares?
Government didn't have shares in
Vodafone, Airtel.
Only Vodafone and Airtel.
Government had
no shares in Selfline.
What about Busy Internet?
Nope.
Nothing at all.
Nope.
And Blue?
No. All private operators.
100%.
100%. Government had no interest in those.
Let's take a few questions from the audience. There's a gentleman who's been asking about mobile fraud and why, even though the SIM registration had been done, which we were told was going to prevent mobile fraud, we are still experiencing quite a bit of mobile fraud.
Have they reported it? And who did they report it to? One, let me put it on record that the Ministry of Communications and Digitalisation does not regulate mobile money. It's the Bank of Ghana which does. However, the Cybersecurity Authority is under the Ministry of Communications. They liaise closely with the National Communications Authority. And I've urged the Bank of Ghana to also, this is a shared space, regulatory space. They're regulating digital financial services. The infrastructure on which those services are delivered is regulated by the NCA. So they necessarily have to work closely together to resolve the issues in the sector. And they are. If you're a victim of mobile money fraud, report it to your network operator and the Cybersecurity Authority. And the SIM registry is there. Once they are notified, they would work with the network operators to block the numbers of those who are using them for fraud. But if you don't report it, there's no way. There is a standing committee which looks at all these things. But if they don't know that that is going on and you report it to your network operator alone, the regulators are not aware that is persisting. So I'll urge everyone. I think they have a hotline, I believe, 292. Just call 292 and report it. And action will be taken on it. I know several SIMs that have been blocked because of this. But it's like criminals. We can never stamp out criminal activity. We can minimize it and make it more difficult for them to operate. But it is important that these regulatory agencies are notified so that they can work together.
There was a major issue a few months ago that people reported on this show where when you send money from your bank account into your Momo, you were charged. And when we asked the banks at the time, I remember interviewing John Owusu on this. He said it was because if that happens, it's in error because the bank did not know you were the same person. He said it on this show. Because the point was that there was no charge for sending money from, because the law around the e-levy was very clear that it was when you are sending money to a different person. But there were a number of people who called into the show who said they were being charged for, maybe he's an Absa customer and he has MTN and he's just pulling money into his wallet and then he's charged. And the explanation we're giving was that that will only happen if the two systems don't know you're the same person. Now, I use this to ask a question around the wisdom in doing a separate SIM registration from the existing Ghana card and NIA registration, because that's the only way in which that mistake can be made, that they would not know that the Ursula who owns this phone number is the same Ursula who has this bank account.
There are multiple databases. We're currently working to link all those databases so that these black holes will not be exploited by service providers. Now, we keep saying there's a separate SIM registration to the NIA database. Every SIM number to be registered has to be verified by the NIA. In the first stage, you need to get it linked to your NIA number before you can proceed to the second stage. So I don't know why this misinformation still persists. To proceed to the second stage of the SIM registration exercise, you need to indicate to your service provider that this is the Ghana card that your number is linked to. So it's part of the registration process. What is not part of the registration process is the verification phase, that you need to verify your SIM number with the NIA to use any service at all. That's not part of the SIM registration process because we're just building a database. What that database will be used for subsequently.
So who is responsible for the integration? The integration. So like if a bank has a Bernard SIM number, he needs to verify that this is the same guy with a Ghana card number. Is it the bank's responsibility? Is it the Whose job is that?
You know, I said that this is a shared regulatory space. So the Bank of Ghana, the National Communications Authority, the National Information Technology Agency need to sit down and work out how this space is going to be regulated. The National Information Technology Agency is responsible for all electronic transactions, so you can take them out of it. The NCA is responsible for regulating the infrastructure on which digital financial services are delivered. The Bank of Ghana is responsible for the digital financial service itself. If they work in isolation, we're going to continue having these problems. I've made this call several times ad nauseum. It is not about Ursula wanting to control anything. It is about benefits that the subscriber will get if these agencies collaborate more in the delivery of their services. They're all doing aspects of the same thing, so they cannot work in isolation. Currently, a committee has been set up to see how all institutions can share their databases. We have a national data center. You let your data sit in your institution, but let's build a highway which will connect all those things and make it possible for people to access the specific data sets that they require, not the entire database. We're working on that as we speak.
Can government allocate some of the OPGW fiber over the Grico pylon to the operations of the Ghana Internet Exchange for quick expansion to the other regions? This will enable all service providers to be omnipresent in Ghana. This is very necessary as a prerequisite for the proposed 5G. Can the minister comment on this? Have you heard this suggestion before?
Sometime next month, I believe, as a follow-up to the subsea cable cut and the lessons learned from it. The NCA is convening a stakeholder conference to discuss the way forward, lessons learned, and what to do to avert any such situation from occurring. Now, localizing our data in local caches is important, and that's where the internet exchanges come in. And so how to make these internet exchanges available, their work available across the country would also be a feature of these conversations. So we're working on that. And there are several fiber networks in the country owned by government. As I indicated, this consortium will utilize what they require. But to make our country better connected, we're looking at ways of consolidating all government's fiber assets. Okay. And so that's also a work in progress.
A few quick questions. Please ask the minister, what happened to the data expiring directive she gave? Our data keeps expiring with limited time. This is Kafri from Legon.
I'm not aware of it. He should notify the NCA. He should notify the NCA with the network that is doing that, because I made it clear that data cannot expire. Once you top up, you should be allowed to utilize what's left on your bundle.
Okay, so listeners who have that problem should notify the NCA. I think they gave a number earlier today. Sylvester says, I once reported a Momo fraud case to the cybercrime unit, and all the person who picked the phone told me was Shikanashi, and that there is nothing they can do about it.
Cybercrimes unit where?
Sylvester, supply more information.
There's a cybercrimes unit of the police service, and there's a cybersecurity authority. Call 292 and report to the cybersecurity authority. They liaise with the police, the network operators on that. So,
all right,
he should work that.
Please ask the minister how the 5G rollout is going to be any better. Users are currently faced with very poor 3G, 4G mobile internet from a number of telcos that keep offering us poor quality internet and poor quality customer service at decreasing cost. We cannot even reach customer service when we have challenges. Why is 3G, 4G mobile currently so poor? How different will 5G be? This is Albert in Abilingbe.
As I've said, this is not the same we're doing things differently, and so we expect to get different results. So he should just watch the space.
Currently, as a minister, for me, Telecel network has been like a scam company. They sell you data and voice credit, but their network does not work at all. You are unable to use the credit you buy, and suddenly it expires, and you buy new data and go through the whole process again. I'm fed up with Telecel, and I've stopped buying credit and data from them. Please, as a minister, why they do not check to make sure the network works, and why they cannot stop the telcos from expiry data menace.
Please contact the NCA as well. Don't just vote with your feet. Make your voice heard so that the issues can be resolved. So contact the NCA with your challenge. Okay?
Have the telecom companies scrapped the 1,000 CD threshold for mobile money withdrawals, which previously attracted a 10 CD fee for withdrawals above 1,000? It appears they now charge a 1% flat fee on all withdrawals, regardless of the amount. Let me know if there's anything she can help with.
I'm not aware. I mean, I don't work with the mobile money issues, so I will find out.
Okay.
But he should direct those inquiries to the Bank of Ghana.
As a minister, what will happen to customers of Selfline after the Selfline 4G after the ISP folded up? I think I asked this question, and you said in the pecking order of when the company liquidates, it's the customers are the last. So is the company liquidated? Do we know? Do we know if they've been liquidated?
It's dead so far, as far as I know.
But I know that they have to be an official liquidation by the Register of Companies. We don't know if they've done this.
I'm not sure if that process has gone through. But if it's folded up, it's folded up. Because so far they've stopped operating in the country. And so it is no longer in operations. Not in liquidation, but it's no longer in operation.
But I find ourselves in a very competitive market. If other telcos decide to go to sleep, whereas others decide to be up to it 24/7, why is she trying every possible means to curtail its growth to the advantage of the lazy ones? Jones, Adogboinla.
I'm not trying to curtail anybody's growth. I'm trying to make it possible for them to deliver better services to all subscribers so that we can have some competition in the market. And it's just government giving everybody a leg up, including MTN as well. People are complaining about their services because of congestion on their network. This would also enable them to also lease capacity to deliver better services.
A few final comments. Bernard, please ask the minister if she can do anything about the multiple promotional text messages from telcos every single day.
You didn't even ask me about my foundation.
I'll go there. I'll go there. And I ask, no, these are for the comments, don't worry.
Okay.
So, I don't know, promotional text messages, and I don't know if you...
From telcos?
Yes.
They should report to the NCA as
the
well.
NCA has a lot of work to do.
That's why they are there.
Please ask the minister, maybe you should send them a query on why so many people are complaining to you on air about things they should be doing.
I will do that. They are listening to.
Ask the minister why government agencies do not host their servers at the government data center. Is there a policy to get them to host there instead of other private data centers or building their own data centers? This is Robert.
Yeah, I've been against government agencies building their own data centers. So usage of the national data center has gone up. We're discouraging them from building their own data centers. NITA is working even with the Public Procurement Authority to ensure that when requests come for approval for these things, they refer them to NITA first. And so they still have capacity there. And the data there is better protected than in the private data centers. So all public agencies who need data center services, their first point of call should be the National Data Center.
Someone wanted to ask you, what is the state of cybersecurity authorities building currently under construction?
Lack of funditis.
Lack of funds.
It stalled a bit. And we're in a difficult position. So we're still hopeful that construction will resume.
All right. Are you gunning for any new position? We've been seeing stories about female running mates, and invariably your photo also shows up.
Really?
When the stories are written, we see the chief of staff, we see the DCAF administrator, and then we see your picture as well. I don't know if you've seen any of these. Is it something you're aware of? Is it something you're interested in?
Is that a position you lobby or gun for? I am absolutely against any active seeking of any such position. It's an appointed position. I think the flag bearer should be left and given the space to decide who he thinks can best partner him in both the elections and in governance, because we are breaking the 8. So people may speculate, but me as Owusu, I haven't told anybody that I'm interested in any position. If the flag bearer thinks in his wisdom that I can assist him in this position, why not? But I'm certainly not putting myself out
when
there.
your name is thrown into the mix in the media, do you feel the need to come out and say, I didn't put my name out there?
No media person can ever say anywhere that I have contacted him to put my name out there, or anybody for that matter. I think the flag bearer should be given the space to choose who he thinks can best partner him in this. It would be great if a female is chosen. I made that call 16, 20 years ago. When did Pakwesi?
I think 8 years ago.
Was it 8 years ago?
4 years ago, the candidate for PPP was Bridget, but 8 years ago, she was a running mate, I think.
Okay. And that was when Ekuyadonko first came on the scene. There was a forum on female participation in politics, and I represented the MPP, and I made that call there forcefully, that if we're interested in expanding the space for female participation in our politics, I think that the two large parties should take deliberate policies to, one, field more women in their strongholds, which will ensure that more of them would get elected into parliament, and to choose a female running mate, because then you're a whisker away from the presidency. He got upset because I said the two main parties, even though other parties, smaller parties, had chosen female running mates in the past. And I said they don't stand any chance of winning elections in this country. So they may make that gesture, which we appreciate. However, for us to have a real shot at improving governance at the highest level in terms of female participation, the two main parties should consider that. This was a long time before either of them.
As a convention, that at least one of the two people should be a woman.
It would be great.
It would be great.
It would be great.
Should it start with Bawumia, since Mahama has done it?
Oh, let him be given the space to choose the person that he best thinks can partner him. I mean, I think it's even disrespectful for people to be lobbying as if he can't make...
But it's part of affirmative action, isn't it? That's how you get more women to be... For example, you tell the political parties that you can reserve some seats for certain disadvantaged groups so that you can increase the number of women in parliament. So it may not be disrespectful if the female lobby strongly thinks that that's the best way to send that signal. It may not be. It
may not be. I made that call many, many years ago. And it would be great if both of the two main parties can field female running mates. And that gives us a shot of having a female vice president. But I'm against this active pushing of personalities in his face. I think that's disrespectful.
You launched the Ursula Foundation, I think, over the weekend?
Yes, on Saturday.
What is that about?
Government can't provide jobs for all the young people who need jobs. And I think we need to focus more on building their capacity to also be entrepreneurs in their own right and to develop their own businesses. So it's something that has been agitating my mind for a long time, to see how you can give small businesses, people with ideas, a leg up. And worked with a few partners and friends to put this foundation together, largely for youth empowerment and for women's empowerment as well. There are a lot of women who would like to acquire new skills to be able to improve their own economic earning abilities. The young people who are clamoring for jobs. I mean, I go around in my constituency and everybody wants to go to the security service, and I tell them that there isn't enough space there for everybody around the country who wants to go into the security service. So can we look at alternatives. And it's not everybody who can be employed in the public sector as well. The private sector has much, much more room for growth than the public sector. So equipping them with employable skills, which will enable them to set up businesses on their own, giving them startup capital, training them, granting them entrepreneurial skills as well. Not everybody knows how to manage a business. They need
So will this be within Ablekuma West, or this is the whole country?
Oh, we have to start from somewhere. I don't have money like that to do the
So
whole
this
country.
is initially...
We're starting from
constituency.
Ablekuma West to the world.
What is the Miss Geek? What is Miss Geek?
Miss Geek is a competition that is aimed at unearthing innovation and talent amongst 13 to 21-year-old girls. And we've just launched that, the second one as well. You should interview Selassie, who won the first one in 2019 and went on to win the Miss Geek Africa competition that's also run by the Smart Africa Alliance. So she's the reigning Miss Geek Africa from Ghana, and she has a very innovative solution to curb mobile money fraud as well. So she was 18 or 20 to 18 years old at the time. Her father heard about this competition when we launched it on a radio station and encouraged her to put in an application, and they're taken through a 3-week masterclass to train them in how to pitch. The Accra Digital Center works on them to develop their ideas into prototypes, and we have a national competition. They select the best 15 entries, and they have a competition, and it's narrowed down to the last 3, and then we choose a winner, and the winner of Miss Geek Ghana will represent Ghana at Miss Geek Africa. This will be held in August in Kenya.
So this is still under your foundation?
No.
This is something separate?
This is a project of the ministry.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's those two. So it means you want to go back into Parliament?
Yes, I am standing for re-election.
Aren't you tired?
Someone has to do the dirty work.
Is Parliament work dirty?
No. Someone has to get their hands dirty and solve the problems that plague our constituencies around the country. Now, you know, the more you work at something, the more you get experience and you build networks that can help. And so I believe that I'm better positioned to serve the people of Ablekuma West than any other contestant. And we've worked, though. We've built roads, we have, when it comes to sports infrastructure, and I'm big in, it will be part of my foundation as well, including esports development. We built sports infrastructure, our basketball team, DC Keys, I'm giving them a shout out this morning. They're winning all their matches. They've just joined the national competition.
We will have a chance to discuss as elections get closer, specific constituencies, and hopefully you'll be willing to talk to us.
I'd love that.
Ablekuma West is one to watch.
Because even those who hate me the most, they admit that, man, this woman has developed her constituency.
So you're confident you will win?
Oh,
the
workday ground.
We'll see how that works.
I'm confident that I'll win.
Thank you, Madam Owusu-Ekuful, for talking to us. Always a pleasure having you. Good luck. We'll talk to you again soon, hopefully, when you are back in season.
I am.
It's a season. It's a seasonal.
Now I'm back in season.
Well, we hope it lasts long. Thank you.